Arts and architecture. The evidence of arts and architecture during Chandragupta's time is mostly limited to texts such as those by Megasthenes and Kautilya. The edict inscriptions and carvings on monumental pillars are attributed to his grandson Ashoka. The texts imply the existence of cities, public works, and prosperous architecture, but the historicity of these is in question. Archaeological discoveries in the modern age, such as those Didarganj Yakshi discovered in 1917 buried beneath the banks of the Ganges, suggest exceptional artisanal accomplishment. The site was dated to 3rd century BCE by many scholars, but later dates such as the Kushan era, 1st-4th century CE, have also been proposed. The competing theories state that the art linked to Chandragupta Maurya's dynasty was learnt from the Greeks in West Asia in the years Alexander the Great waged war, or that these artifacts belong to an older indigenous Indian tradition. Frederick Asher of the University of Minnesota says, "We cannot pretend to have definitive answers, and perhaps, as with most art, we must recognize that there is no single answer or explanation." Succession, renunciation, and death. Sallekkhana. The circumstances and year of Chandragupta's death are unclear and disputed. According to Digambara Jain accounts, Bhadrabahu forecast a 12-year famine because of all the killing and violence during the conquests by Chandragupta Maurya. He led a group of Jain monks to South India, where Chandragupta Maurya joined him as a monk after abdicating his kingdom to his son Bindusara. Together, states a Digambara legend, Chandragupta and Bhadrabahu moved to Shravanabelagola, in present-day South Karnataka. These Jain accounts appeared in texts such as Brihakatha Kosa, 931 CE, of Harishena, Bhadrabahu Charita, 1450 CE, of Ratnanandi, Munivansa Bude, 1680 CE, and Rajavali Kathe. Chandragupta lived as an ascetic at Shravanabelagola for several years before fasting to death as per the practice of Sallekkhana, according to the Digambara legend. In accordance with the Digambara tradition, the hill on which Chandragupta is stated to have performed asceticism is now known as Chandragiri Hill, and Digambaras believe that Chandragupta Maurya erected an ancient temple that now survives as the Chandragupta Bashdi. According to Roy, Chandragupta's abdication of throne may be dated to c. 298 BCE, and his death between 297 BCE and 293 BCE. His grandson was Emperor Ashoka, who was famed for his historic pillars and his role in helping spread Buddhism outside of ancient India. Regarding the inscriptions describing the relation of Bhadrabahu and Chandragupta Maurya, Radha Kumud Mukherjee writes, "The oldest inscription of about 600 AD associated the pair, Yugma, Bhadrabahu along with Chandragupta Muni. Two inscriptions of about 900 AD on the Kaveri near Seringapatam describe the summit of a hill called Chandragiri as marked by the footprints of Bhadrabahu and Chandragupta Munipati. A Shravanabelagola inscription of 1129 mentions Bhadrabahu, Shrutikevali, and Chandragupta, who acquired such merit that he was worshipped by the forest deities. Another inscription of 1163 similarly couples and describes them. A third inscription of the year 1432 speaks of Yatindra Bhadrabahu and his disciple Chandragupta, the fame of whose penance spread into other worlds. Along with texts, several Digambara Jain inscriptions dating from the 7th-15th century refer to Bhadrabahu and a Prabhakandra. Later Digambara tradition identified the Prabhakandra as Chandragupta, and some modern-era scholars have accepted this Digambara tradition while others have not. Several of the late Digambara inscriptions and texts in Karnataka state the journey started from Ujjain and not Patliputra, as stated in some Digambara texts. Jeffrey D. Long, a scholar of Jain and Hindu studies, says in one Digambara version, it was Samprati Chandragupta who renounced, migrated and performed Sallekkhana in Shravanabelagola. Long states scholars attribute the disintegration of the Maurya Empire to the times and actions of Samprati Chandragupta, the grandson of Ashoka and great-great-grandson of Chandragupta Maurya. The two Chandraguptas have been confused to be the same in some Digambara legends. Scholar of Jain studies and Sanskrit Paul Dundas says the Swetambara tradition of Jainism disputes the ancient Digambara legends. According to a 5th century text of the Swetambara Jains, the Digambara sect of Jainism was founded 609 years after Mahavira's death, or in 1st century CE. Digambaras wrote their own versions and legends after the 5th century, with their first expanded Digambara version of sectarian split within Jainism appearing in the 10th century. The Swetambara's texts describe Bhadrabahu was based near Nepal's foothills of the Himalayas in 3rd century BCE, who neither moved nor travelled with Chandragupta Maurya to the south. rather, he died near Patliputra, according to the Svetambara Jains. The 12th century Svetambara Jain legend by Hemachandra presents a different picture. The Hemachandra version includes stories about Jain monks who could become invisible to steal food from imperial storage and the Jain Brahmin Chanakya using violence and cunning tactics to expand Chandragupta's empire and increase imperial revenues. It states in verses 8.415 to 8.435 that for 15 years as emperor, Chandragupta was a follower of non-Jain ascetics with the wrong view of religion and lust for women. Chanakya, who was a Jain convert himself, persuaded Chandragupta to convert to Jainism by showing that Jain ascetics avoided women and focused on their religion. The legend mentions Chanakya aiding the premature birth of Bindusara. It states in verse 8.444 that Chandragupta died in meditation, can possibly be Salekhana, and went to heaven. According to Hemachandra's legend, Chanakya also performed Salekhana. According to V.R. Ramachandra Dikshita, an Indologist and historian, several of the Digambara legends mention Prabhakandra, who had been misidentified as Chandragupta Maurya particularly after the original publication on Shravanabelagola epigraphy by B. Lewis Rice. The earliest and most important inscriptions mention Prabhakandra, which Rice presumed may have been the clerical name assumed by Chandragupta Maurya after he renounced and moved with Bhadrabahu from Patliputra. Dikshita stated there is no evidence to support this and Prabhakandra was an important Jain monk scholar who migrated centuries after Chandragupta Maurya's death. Other scholars have taken Rice's deduction of Chandragupta Maurya retiring and dying in Shravanabelagola as the working hypothesis, since no alternative historical information or evidence is available about Chandragupta's final years and death. According to historian Sushma Jansari, a closer look at the evidence for Chandragupta's conversion to Jainism and his and Bhadrabahu's association with Shravana-Belgola reveals that it is both late and problematic. In addition, except for Jain sources, there is no evidence to support the view of Chandragupta's conversion and migration. Jansari concludes, overall, therefore, the evidence as it currently stands suggests that the story of Chandragupta's conversion to Jainism and abdication, if, indeed, he did abdicate, his migration southwards and his association, or otherwise, with Bhadrabahu and the site of Shravana-Belgola developed after circa 600 AD. Legacy. A memorial to Chandragupta Maurya exists on Chandragiri Hill in Shravanabelagola, Karnataka. The Indian Postal Service issued a commemorative postage stamp honoring Chandragupta Maurya in 2001. In popular culture, Mudra Rakshasa, the signet ring of Rakshasa, is a political drama in Sanskrit by Vishakhadatta composed 600 years after the conquest of Chandragupta, probably between 300 CE and 700 CE. D. L. Roy wrote a Bengali drama named Chandragupta based on the life of Chandragupta. The story of the play is loosely borrowed from the Puranas and the Greek history. Chanakya's role in the formation of the Maurya Empire is the essence of a historical, spiritual novel The Courtesan and the Sadhu by Dr. Mysore N. Prakash. Chandragupta is a 1920 Indian silent film about the Mauryan king. Chandragupta is a 1934 Indian film directed by Abdur Rashid Kardar. Chandragupta Chanakya is an Indian Tamil language historical drama film directed by C. K. Sachi. Starring Bhavani K. Samamurthy as Chandragupta. Samrat Chandragupta is a 1945 Indian historical film by Jayant Desai. Samrat Chandragupta is a 1958 Indian historical fiction film by Babubhai Mistry, a remake of the 1945 film. It stars Bharat Bhushan in the titular role of the emperor. The story of Chanakya and Chandragupta was made into a film in Telugu in 1977 titled Chanakya Chandragupta. The television series Chanakya is an account of the life and times of Chanakya, based on the play Mudra Rakshasa. In 2011, a television series called Chandragupta Maurya was telecast on Imagine TV. In 2016, the television series Chandra Nandini was a fictionalized romance saga. In the 2016 video game Civilization VI, Chandragupta is a playable leader for the Indian civilization. In 2018, a television series called Chandragupta Maurya portrays the life of Chandragupta Maurya. Nobunaga the Fool, a Japanese stage play and anime, features a character named Chandragupta based on the emperor. In the 2001 film Asoka, directed by Santosh Sivan, Bollywood director and producer Umesh Mehra played the role of Chandragupta Maurya.